Hello, my name's Laurence Lee. I am 55. I spent all my career, except for a couple of years, working in broadcast news, or BBC television, and then Sky News, and Al Jazeera television as well, in kind of 10-year blocks, more or less. So I did that for about 30 years. I was very lucky. I worked all over the world. And I gave up my career as a broadcaster during the pandemic, actually, because I really wanted to do some stuff with kids who had trouble broadcasting themselves, really, and had confidence issues, because I did too. And so, the last 3 years I've been trying to work with schools, helping kids how to speak, because I kind of thought to myself, well, if I was a broadcaster, then I ought to be able to teach kids how to broadcast themselves. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, that's me. You see, my stammer came about actually kind of to begin with because my parents decided to make me do the entrance exam to get into the school I went to a year early, right? So I did this little test when I was 5 instead of 6, and I passed. And the head teacher said, well, why don't you just put him in the school now? And they said, okay, and I didn't know, because I was 5. And what happened immediately was that I was quite shy, and I was much smaller than everybody else, because, boys grow kind of really quickly. And so, because I was smaller, I was a bit of a target, I think, to be honest with you. It was an English class, and they were going around the class reading. Everyone had to stand up and read a paragraph out of Dick Whittington or something, And they started over there, and I was over here, and I was looking at the clock, and I just, something had sort of gone in my head, and I was looking at the clock, and I thought, I'm not going to be able to say anything. Actually, if it gets to me, I'm not going to be able to speak at all. And it got to me, and I stood up and I went, look like that, and the teacher thought I was taking the mickey, and all the kids thought, I don't know what they thought I was doing. So the whole class erupted, and I was in tears, and I got taken to the head teacher. And then it all came out, because I hadn't told my parents about it, really, and what was happening, and nobody knew, and I was just by myself in this little kind of isolated little bubble that I was in. And so I had to have speech therapy for ages, actually. I did okay in school. I did a degree in classics, actually, and then went from there into work experience at the BBC. So that was how it went. But, all my life, when I feel like when I feel intimidated by somebody, I think, or when I feel someone is threatening me, I can feel it start to stick again here. And it never really leaves you, to be honest, I'll tell you what happened, right? I found, even when I was, kind of was okay, and I was on the telly, and I was, because I did 24 hours and live TV for most of it at Sky News and Al Jazeera. So I was on the telly literally every hour when there's a big story going on. For sort of 12 or 15 hours a day sometimes. And some of it was in really difficult places. I worked for a long time in Jerusalem, and I worked in Iraq, and, into Libya, and, all kinds of funny places. And a lot of it was not only dangerous, it was absolutely exhausting as well. And what I found was that towards the end of the day, particularly when I got really tired, I'd stand there like at sort of 11 o'clock at night or something. I'd been up since 6 or something. And I just, they were about, I could hear the sort of the news jingle going, and they're about, because it's a lead story, and they're about to come to me. And I just thought, God, I really hope I can speak. What happens if I don't? I mean, it's just like the end. And I'll tell you one thing that absolutely really helped me, like, so much, was quite by accident. I mean, and I was still quite young when I watched it, just by accident on the telly, I think on the BBC, there was a documentary. And it was about a group of men who all had stutters and stammers. And they took them all off to see this woman who was an opera singing trainer. in like Vienna, I think. I can't remember exactly where it was. And so she says, okay, so tell me what your name is. And they're like, you know, well, my name is Brian, and I can't do it. And then she said to them, all right, well, now I want you to sing your name. Because when you sing, you can't breathe in and sing at the same time, can you? And this is what I realized. You can only sing while you're breathing out. And if you make yourself push the air down, and then these guys go like, my name is Brian. And so this was my big trick. This is my big secret that I never told anybody was, you know, and this is a really good thing, even if you haven't got a stammer, if you've got to give a speech or something, you know, and you think like your voice is up here somewhere and you get stuck. When the news jingle goes and the presenter says, okay, well, you know, it's been another really difficult day in Jerusalem and there's been a and whatever else. And, you know, joining us now is Laurence Lee. And then Laurence, what's the latest? Which is kind of standard kind of presenter intro. When they say, Laurence, what's the latest? At that point, I will have taken in a massive deep breath. And then I won't start talking until I start breathing out. And I can literally find myself like pushing my stomach out as far as it'll go, and pushing the air down to my stomach. Because once I'm breathing out like that, and I've started, I could carry on. Because for me, it was the starting a sentence that was a really difficult bit. And once I've got a couple of sentences in and I'm flowing and my shoulders have dropped very slightly, I'm a bit more relaxed, then I was off and I was okay. And so it just became a whole really conscious breathing technique that I had to do literally every single time I did a live broadcast. And I don't know how many thousands and thousands and thousands I did all through my career, but I just had to concentrate on it every single time I did it. And I had a few incidents where I kind of got stuck sometimes, but I just found a way around it somehow. But I don't think anybody ever would have known what was actually going on in my head. I think one of the things that I found most rewarding from it was when I had the facility to concentrate on issues and sort of topics rather than individual stories and individual things that have happened, but topics which I felt really strongly about. So when I was at Al Jazeera, it coincided with the Arab Spring and the war in Syria and this incredible movement of people from the Middle East trying to get refuge in Europe, and you know, and for me to be able to sort of highlight people's stories, you know, and a lot of them they really wanted to talk to you about this stuff, you know. I mean, if anybody is watching this and was interested in going into a career in journalism, I would honestly say, just do the stuff that's really important, you know, not just like, look, there's 2 cars that crashed down the road. Anybody can do that. You can see it on Twitter. Do the stuff that matters and is really important. And, you know, in terms of sort of public service almost, that was the biggest highlight for me, I think, was being able to do things like that, I would say. I'd had this thing in my head for ages and ages where I thought I really want to, you know, find kids who have confidence issues, you know, or maybe really, really want to get a career in the media and don't know how to start. I just fancy doing some teaching. So I took redundancy during the pandemic from Al Jazeera. Because I just thought, well, if I don't do this now, I'm never going to do it. And I can support my wife with her career and all that stuff too. But it's also allowed me to start going into schools and to run courses for kids. I've been trying to do a couple of different things actually. Some courses are about kind of how to be a journalist, and here's how you might make a film about something, you know, which is kind of quite niche. But some schools you go to, they'll point you in the direction of kids who are interested in this in the 6th form, and you know, I've had some kids who are really talented. I've been able to help because I know so many people in TV news because I've been doing it such a long time. You know, my wife's a very senior woman at ITN. If I find someone who's really, really amazing, and I say to someone, look, can you give this kid some work experience? They're really good. Then it just opens all the doors for them. I think to talk to someone about it would have been the first thing, because half my problems came out because I didn't tell anybody about it. You got to put your hand up if you're being bullied, you know, or something really bad is happening to you. You got to tell someone about it as soon as you possibly can, and not be frightened of it. Because one thing bullies do is say, you can't tell anybody about this, otherwise I'll hit you even harder. But that's not the answer, is it? I mean, you can't necessarily fight them back, but you've got to put your hand up and try and get away from the problem as soon as you can before it gets on top of you. And I sometimes wonder if I've done that, but I think just find nice people to be around. Ignore the bad people. Just give them the widest berth. Just find gentle, kind people who are okay. And even if you have got a stammer by this point, just ignore most people. Even if you only end up with one or two, just find the people who are okay with you, and just build your confidence back up a little bit. Honestly, I think it's so much about confidence, isn't it, or lack of it? This thing, and once it's on top of you, it's really difficult to find a way back out of it. It's get the bad people out of the way, I would say.